Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're stepping back to a really pivotal moment, New Year's Day, 1863.
Right. A day filled with incredible tension.
Absolutely. The whole country was basically waiting, wondering if President Lincoln would actually sign the Emancipation Proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
Declare millions of enslaved people free.
It's hard to overstate the doubt at the time. Such a radical step. And a single signature poised to change, well, everything.
So much skepticism. People were asking, is he really going to do this? Does he have the backbone?
Exactly. And that's where our deep dive picks up today, looking at this chapter from Doris Kearns Goodwin's Team of Rivals. We're focusing on Lincoln's leadership in those critical early months of '63.
Yeah, our mission here is to unpack how he handled this monumental challenge, issuing the proclamation, managing, a seriously difficult cabinet, a divided nation.
And all this while facing these devastating military setbacks. It's about how he navigated all that, trying to push towards Union victory, but also, crucially, laying down a new moral foundation for the country.
It really is a masterclass in leadership under, unbelievable pressure.
We'll look at the immediate aftermath, what happened right after the proclamation was signed, and this fire in the rear concept, the intense political opposition he faced.
Right, the fight behind the front lines.
Exactly. And Lincoln's own leadership style, how he coped with the stress, both personal and public. We'll also touch on that crushing defeat at Chancellorsville.
And yet somehow his conviction didn't waver. That's what's so striking.
It truly is. It's a story of resilience, strategy. I think it offers lessons even today for leaders facing division.
So let's set that scene again. January 1st, 1863. The air thick with expectation. Lincoln had made this preliminary proclamation back in September.
And despite all the warnings, people saying it would cause chaos, harm the Union cause, Lincoln apparently never considered backing down.
Frederick Douglass had a great observation about him, didn't he? That once Lincoln staked himself to a forward position, he just wouldn't give ground.
A man committed. And what's really interesting, the final version of the proclamation had a critical addition.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Official authorization for recruiting black soldiers into the Union Army.
Which was huge. Stanton and Chase have been pushing for that for a while, right?
For months, yes. But Lincoln, ever the pragmatist, worried about alienating, parts of his coalition, especially the border states, he waited.
Until the timing felt right.
Exactly. The sheer manpower needs of the war became undeniable. It was a massive shift, fundamentally changing the nature of the conflict.
And the cabinet itself. They didn't suggest many changes to the text.
Surprisingly few, actually. The most notable contribution came from Treasury Secretary Chase. He proposed that eloquent ending.
Invoking the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God.
Precisely. It adds this profound moral weight, doesn't it? Lifting it beyond just a legal document.
Definitely elevates it. So the morning of January 1st, Lincoln makes his final tweaks, sends it off.
But even on that historic morning, reality intrudes. He has this tense meeting with General Burnside.
Oh, right. Burnside was having trouble.
Big trouble. Discord among his commanders, Burnside actually offering to resign. It's a stark reminder that the war machine kept grinding on, even as history was being made in the White House.
So the document gets finalized, copied, but then there's a hiccup.
Yeah, a technical error on the official copy. Seward brings it back, but it has to be corrected.
Which causes a delay.
A significant delay. Pushes the actual signing into the mid-afternoon, well past the traditional New Year's reception at the White House.
The reception. That must have been quite the scene. Diplomats, justices, cabinet members.
Goodwin describes it as a brilliant scene, absolutely. But underneath the glitter, you see the human cost. Mary Lincoln was there, looking quite doleful.
Still grieving Willie's death from the year before.
Deeply, she apparently confided to someone, "Oh, Mr. French, how much we have passed through. It's heartbreaking."
And Lincoln himself. How was he holding up?
Journalist Noah Brooks observed him, noted how grievously altered he looked. Hair grizzled, posture stooped, face sallow.
The war was taking its toll.
Immensely. But Brooks also noted his handshake, that famous blessed old pump handle, was still going strong, greeting every single visitor. The public duty versus the private sorrow.
So finally, mid-afternoon, the reception's over. Time to sign.
Yes, back in his office, exhausted from shaking hundreds of hands, he picks up the pen, dips it in the ink, moves to sign.
And pauses.
He stops. His hand is trembling. Not from doubt, he insisted later, but purely from the fatigue of the reception.
But he worried how it would look.
Exactly. He famously said something like, "I never in my life felt more certain that I was doing right. My whole soul is in it. He feared a shaky signature might be misread as hesitation.
So what did you do?
He put the pen down, waited a moment, let his hand steady, then picked it up again and produced this signature described as unusually bold, clear, and firm.
Followed by a laugh of relief.
Yes. A moment of intense personal focus, ensuring his commitment was unambiguous on the page. He was literally signing his name into history.
Meanwhile, the North is just waiting.
On tenterhooks. Huge crowds gathered in Boston, places like Tremont Temple, Music Hall. Frederick Douglass was there, Anna Dickinson, Longfellow, Emerson, all waiting for the news to come over the telegraph.
And there were those rumors about Mary Lincoln maybe influencing him against it because of her family background.
Unfounded rumors. Goodwin makes it clear Mary was actually a staunch supporter of emancipation. She even sent a photo of Lincoln to an abolitionist for the joyous occasion.
So the news finally arrives.
Around 10 p.m. in Boston, Douglass described the scene at Tremont Temple as just wild and grand, people weeping with joy.
Similar scenes elsewhere.
Yes, elation at Music Hall, too. Serenaders even came to the White House, though Lincoln just gave a silent bow.
Now, the proclamation's immediate impact was limited, right? It technically only applied to areas still in rebellion.
Correct. It didn't instantly free everyone, but its long-term significance was immense. It fundamentally changed forever the relationship of the national government to slavery. It put slavery under its ban.
And crucially, the Union Army would now be an army of liberation.
Exactly. Before, they might have returned fugitive slaves. Now, their official policy was to secure their freedom, a total paradigm shift.
Newspapers reacted quickly. Some saw the writing on the wall for slavery as a political force.
The Boston Daily Evening Transcript predicted it would cease to be a political power. Even critics like James Garfield, then a congressman-elect who called Lincoln a second-rate Illinois lawyer, had to admit he'd uttered epoch-making words.
Lincoln himself knew the gravity, didn't he? He'd spoken about history judging them.
He absolutely did. In his message to Congress just weeks earlier, he said, "We cannot escape history. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor." And privately, to his friend Joshua Speed, he confessed that with this act, his fondest hopes would be realized.
Deep self-awareness there. But okay, the ink is dry. What happens next? Not everyone was celebrating.
Far from it. Serious questions arose immediately about the timing. Would it fracture the North even more? Would it actually strengthen Southern resolve?
Even Seward was worried about union and harmony.
He was. But Lincoln possessed this. Goodwin calls it an exceptionally sensitive grasp of the limits set by public opinion. He genuinely believed it wouldn't have worked, couldn't have been sustained, even 6 months earlier.
He felt the public wasn't ready before then.
He really did. You have to remember, someone like Walt Whitman pointed out, at the start of the war, many Northerners fought primarily for union, not necessarily abolition. The sentiment had to evolve.
And Lincoln watched that evolution closely.
Very closely. He used that pear tree analogy, didn't he?
Oh, right, about waiting for fruit to ripen before picking it.
Exactly. He said trying to force it, like enlisting black soldiers too early, could spoil both fruit and tree. He saw this great revolution in public sentiment slowly but surely progressing. In newspapers, conversations, what the troops were saying, strategic patience.
But that patience was immediately tested. The backlash was fierce.
Fierce is the word. His governing coalition started to fray. You had newly elected Democratic governors, like in New York and Kentucky, openly denouncing emancipation.
And in states like Illinois and Indiana.
Their legislatures, heavily Democratic, actually threatened to basically break off an ally with Southern states to end the war with slavery intact. They blamed New England abolitionists for turning it into a fanatical crusade.
Wow, that's serious internal opposition. Lincoln's own secretary, Nicolay, was worried.
He feared some Democrats were actively organizing to oppose the war itself, using the proclamation as cover.
And adding to this political fire in the rear, the military situation was bleak.
Really bleak. That winter of '63 felt like the Valley Forge of the war. Burnside had failed spectacularly at Fredericksburg. Grant was stalled trying to take Vicksburg. Morale was low.
And this fueled the opposition in Congress. The Copperheads.
Precisely. The Copperheads, these were peace Democrats who argued the war's aims had shifted illegitimately from preserving the Union to abolishing slavery. They fought Lincoln on everything.
Banking reform, conscription, emancipation.
Everything. They used all sorts of obstructionist tactics, hiding in lobbies to prevent a quorum, proposing impossible amendments, filibustering in the Senate. It was political warfare.
Goodwin describes some pretty dramatic scenes. The Landham's speeches.
Oh, Clement Vallandigham. Yeah, fiery anti-war speeches accusing Lincoln of fighting only for the Negro, demanding an immediate end to the war and compromise with the South. His rhetoric was apparently quite venomous.
And that Senator Salisbury incident?
Willard Salisbury, yes, apparently fueled by alcohol, goes on this tirade in the Senate, calls Lincoln an imbecile, and then pulls out a revolver when the sergeant-at-arms tries to intervene.
Unbelievable. Real tension.
Absolutely. And this sentiment wasn't just in Washington. There were reports filtering back from the Army itself. Some officers claimed the proclamation was hurting morale.
Soldiers feeling deceived. That they signed up to fight for the Union, not necessarily for emancipation.
That was the argument some were making, yeah. People like Orville Browning warned Lincoln about it. Admiral Foote called the proclamation's impact baneful.
So, criticism from politicians, the public, even potentially the Army. How did Lincoln react?
He remained absolutely steadfast. He told Justice David Davis emancipation was a fixed thing, no turning back.
He trusted the people, ultimately.
He did. He believed if the Democrats pushed too hard for concessions, the people would leave them. He had this deep faith in the public's underlying commitment to the Union, even if it wavered.
And he articulated this larger purpose, didn't he, to the working men of London?
A profound statement that the American people were testing whether a government based on human freedom could actually survive. He saw the bigger picture, the global significance.
And amidst all this noise and opposition, he was quietly getting things done in Congress.
Remarkably, yes. While his allies wrung their hands over the Copperhead attacks, Lincoln pointed out that Congress actually passed every single major administration bill related to the war effort.
Banking, currency, conscription.
All of it, which shows his behind-the-scenes maneuvering and influence remained incredibly effective, despite the public rancor.
He wasn't just playing defense either. He actively rallied support.
Big time. These monster mass rallies across the North were organized specifically to counter the defeatism being spread by the Copperheads. General Scott appeared in New York. Lincoln himself attended one in D.C.
With young Tad.
Right. Apparently, Tad was snuggled up against his chest. A little bit of human connection amidst the political storm.
And then the crucial state elections in Connecticut and New Hampshire.
A real test case. Lincoln knew how important they were. He quietly arranged for Thurlow Weed to raise about $15,000 a lot back then to influence the outcome.
And it worked.
It did. The Copperhead suffered stunning blow defeats. It validated Lincoln's political strategy and his belief that ultimately the public would stand by the Union cause.
So politically, he's navigating this minefield. What about him personally? How did he cope? He seemed remarkably calm compared to others.
He really did project this calm, good-natured exterior, very different from, say, the anxious Chase or the perpetually exhausted Stanton. He had his ways of finding solace.
Like evenings at Seward's house.
Yes, that seemed to be a key refuge. Good conversation, relaxation. Goodwin mentions anecdotes, Lincoln telling funny stories, displaying that grim levity.
Like the joke about giving passes to Richmond?
Exactly. Given passes to 250,000 men, not one has got there yet. A dark humor, but probably necessary. And Seward apparently offered unwavering support, calling Lincoln the best and wisest man. That kind of friendship must have been vital.
He also found refuge in the telegraph office.
Seems so. A place to unwind a bit, chat with the young operators, maybe hear the latest news directly. Shared some stories there, too.
And late night reading.
John Hay, his secretary, painted this wonderful picture of Lincoln late at night in his nightshirt reading Shakespeare or humorous writers like Thomas Hood, finding genuine amusement. These small moments of escape were crucial, you suspect.
And Mary Lincoln. Still grappling with grief but fulfilling her duties.
Yes, profoundly affected by Willie's death, but determined to perform her role as First Lady, hosting receptions, showing kindness to soldiers and nurses, putting on a brave face, as one observer noted, keeping the skeleton out of sight.
It's this incredible mix of public duty and private pain for both of them. Lincoln also showed remarkable forgiveness, didn't he? Even when provoked.
He really did. He could get exasperated, sure, like with political squabbles in Missouri, saying he was tormented beyond endurance. But he was also quick to apologize if he felt he'd been unfair.
Like with General Sigel.
Right, admitting he'd been a little cross and asking pardon, saying he didn't have time to stay angry, or apologizing profusely to an Army colonel he'd been short with the night before.
And the Carl Schurz story is fantastic.
It really is. After Schurz criticized him sharply in a letter, and Lincoln wrote a blistering reply, he then invites Schurz to the White House.
And basically asks him Did you really think I was that much of a fool?
Pretty much. Then he explains the pressures he's under, laughs about how hard he hit back in the letter, and asks, but it didn't hurt, did it? It completely diffused the tension and actually strengthened their relationship. That takes real humility and emotional intelligence.
Okay, so personal resilience, political maneuvering,
Right.
but the war itself looms large. Chancellorsville. Before the battle, Lincoln visits the army.
Yes, in early April, he turns it into a trip for Tad's 10th birthday, goes down to Falmouth, Virginia, where the Army of the Potomac is camped under General Hooker.
Another glimpse of Lincoln the father. And the journey itself was dramatic.
Left during a furious blizzard, Tad apparently had a great time catching fish. Noah Brooks, who was along, just marveled at the president relaxing so openly, almost vulnerably, thinking the rebels could have easily captured the whole group.
They arrive at Hooker's massive camp. This is after Lincoln wrote Hooker that incredibly frank letter appointing him commander.
That's right. The letter from January is amazing. Lincoln basically calls Hooker out for undermining his predecessor and warns him about ambition and any talk of being a dictator.
But also offers strategic advice and ends with encouragement.
Beware of rashness, but with energy and sleepless vigilance, go forward and give us victories. It shows Lincoln really growing into his role as commander-in-chief, confident in his own judgment.
How did Hooker take that letter?
Surprisingly well, according to accounts. He was deeply moved, read it aloud, called it the kind of letter a father might write to his son, declared, "I love the man who wrote it."
So the visit itself, grand reviews.
Huge cavalry review, Lincoln riding alongside Hooker, young Tad bravely keeping up on his pony, apparently accompanied by a young veteran bugler who became his shadow.
And Lincoln's wit was on display again.
Defending the soldiers, craning their necks to see him. "I don't care how much my soldiers turn their heads if they don't turn their backs." Classic Lincoln.
They even went close enough to see the enemy camps.
Right up to the Rappahannock River. Saw Fredericksburg, the site of the earlier disaster, saw rebel camps. Apparently, Union and Confederate sentries would shout comments across the river, a sort of strange, informal truce.
But a sobering experience, too.
Very. Brooks noted the saddening thought that many of these impressive soldiers would soon be dead. And before leaving, Lincoln gave that final direct order to Hooker and his second-in-command, Couch. "Gentlemen, in your next battle, put in all your men."
He left feeling optimistic.
Tremendously heartened, Goodwin says. He felt the army was in good shape, good spirits.
But that optimism was short-lived. Chancellorsville.
Yeah. Back in Washington, the waiting begins as the battle unfolds. Terrible suspense. Lincoln is trying to stay positive, but has doubts and misgivings, according to Wells. He doesn't want to pressure Hooker.
And then the news comes. May 6th.
Bad news. A telegram. Union forces defeated, retreating back across the Rappahannock. Heavy casualties, 17,000 men.
A crushing blow. What went wrong?
Hooker seems to have lost his nerve. General Couch later said Lee simply outgeneraled him. Hooker was maybe demoralized by Stonewall Jackson's surprise attack and, crucially, failed to commit all his forces as Lincoln had urged.
How did Lincoln take the news?
Noah Brooks provides this unforgettable image of Lincoln just overwhelmed by despair, face ashen, pacing the room, hands clasped behind his back, repeating, my God, what will the country say? What will the country say?"
Utter anguish.
Pure anguish. Senator Sumner cried, "Lost, lost, all is lost." Stanton was despairing. Secessionist sentiment surged again. It felt like a disaster.
But Lincoln didn't stay down for long.
No, he immediately went back down to Hooker's headquarters. A grim trip this time. But he found, Goodwin says, some redemption in the soldiers' spirit. They were defeated but not broken. Game to the backbone.
And the Confederates paid a price too, didn't they?
A heavy price. They lost 13,000 men, a larger percentage of their army than the Union lost, and critically, they lost Stonewall Jackson, accidentally shot by his own men, died later of pneumonia. A massive blow to the South.
So even in defeat, there were strategic consequences. Lincoln leaves Hooker a letter.
Yes. Stays only a few hours, but leaves a letter expressing confidence, advising against rashness, offering help. Again, that forward motion, replacing anguish over an unchangeable past with hope in an uncharted future.
Incredible resilience. He gets back to Washington, and the cabinet drama is still swirling.
Oh, yes, never stops. Blair is furious with Stanton over commuting a death sentence. Wells is feuding with Seward over captured British mail, the Peterhoff incident which threatened relations with Britain.
Lincoln sided with Seward on that one.
Yeah.
To avoid war.
Prioritize keeping Britain neutral, yes, even though Sumner thought Lincoln was very ignorant on international law for doing so.
And Chase, still threatening to resign.
Like clockwork. His third threat in 5 months, this time over some appointments Lincoln made without consulting him.
And Lincoln works his magic again.
Masterfully. Gently refuses the resignation letter. Chase, here's a paper with which I wish to have nothing to do. Take it back and be reasonable. He smooths things over, promises Chase authority on future Treasury appointments.
But keeps the letter.
You bet. Files it away for future reference. He recognized Chase's value, his superlative accomplishments like selling war bonds, but he wasn't going to be constantly held hostage by these resignation threats.
It really underscores his genius for managing these incredibly difficult, ambitious personalities.
It truly does. Keeping that team of rivals focused, or at least functional, amidst war, political turmoil, and personal egos. It was essential to the Union effort.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just staggering to think about the pressure Lincoln was under in early '63. The Emancipation Proclamation, the political attacks, the cabinet infighting, Chancellorsville.
Yet through it all, you see this core of resilience, patience, and unwavering moral conviction. He understood the political landscape, he read the public mood, and he never lost sight of his ultimate goal, a nation reunited and free.
He often spoke of being an instrument of providence, but he was also clearly a master strategist in shaping public opinion.
Absolutely. He seemed to trust that the people would eventually reject defeatism, and he actively worked to nurture that spirit.
Which brings us to a final thought. This deep trust Lincoln had in the people, even when they were divided and angry, and his deliberate effort to cultivate that trust. How might that serve as a lesson for leaders today?
It's a powerful question, isn't it? In our own times of division and doubt, that blend of conviction and patient cultivation of public understanding seems incredibly relevant, something definitely worth pondering.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this look into Lincoln's crucible year has given you a richer sense of this critical period and the extraordinary leader who navigated it.